You're listening to an IOE podcast from the UCL Institute of Education. Powered by UCL Minds.
This is Research for the Real World. Conversations with researchers about the paths they've taken to shape our everyday lives.
So how good is this? It's June, we're all enjoying the unlocking, and now we have the 10th season of the Research for the Real World podcast. How have you been taking advantage of your newfound freedoms, Keri?
Well, I finally got to go out for my first meal that was served to me. I got to hang out with friends at a picnic where I shared my homemade sourdough. What about you, Sam?
When it didn't rain, I fired up the barbecue, but I've also been meeting with friends and some of my collaborators and co-authors outside at the pub. How good is it to see people face to face rather than just on Zoom?
So good. And that is the theme for this season, collaboration. And more specifically, collaborative social science research across UCL and beyond. We wanted to focus on how IOE researchers have been working with their colleagues from other UCL departments and the wider community.
And it's been so interesting for me to hear from colleagues working in other departments. Hearing about their interdisciplinary work was a welcome break from working away solo at my kitchen table.
Yeah, I completely get what you mean. It was refreshing to hear how teams were still working together during tough COVID times, gaining fresh perspectives and finding new ways to work with each other and how to show off their research as well.
So in this season, I'll be hearing from Professor Keri Jewett about her work advancing interdisciplinary knowledge on digital touch.
The project started to work with artists in order to open up new questions. And partly we needed to do that because people find it really hard to think and talk about touch. We haven't got a very good language or vocabulary for talking about touch. And so most lay people, there's some specialists who are very good at talking about touch, but most lay people, members of the public, find it really difficult to even articulate what's happened or to be able to recall a touch in any great detail. And while we were working with artists, like we did a performance called Thresholds of Touch, where I worked with a sound artist and a digital performance artist to create a 1 hour performance, all focused around the experience of touch.
And Vivian Hill about working with mental health practitioners in schools.
And in the last 12 months, with Professor Jane Hurry and Professor Jessica Dayton at the Anna Freud Centre, we decided to do a feasibility study to look at rolling out this initiative into the further education sector. The further education sector was an area that hadn't been part of the initial scoping of the project, but I was very much aware from my work in local authority context that the further education sector has always been the most inclusive part of the education system.
I'm speaking to Dr. Spela Godek about STEM equity projects across different departments and time zones.
We're thinking of best ways of sharing this knowledge from the project. To give you some examples, we as academics, we write a lot, and we often write in ways that aren't as accessible as they could be. So having practitioners there who know that they can raise issues with us has been so valuable. When they would say, I don't think anyone in our sector would actually understand this material that you've produced for practitioners. Then we work with them to make sure that the outputs are useful for the practice, that they're gonna actually be used. And I think that gives us a much better potential to have a more significant impact and improve the way we do research and the way we communicate research. So it's been really, really valuable.
And Dr. Pravitha Patele about the arts of collaborative research.
Thinking outside your disciplinary boundary and being open to ideas from other disciplines, but also sort of accepting that if we have to truly make population health better, we will need solutions from many different places. And just to give an example, so for example, I've been thinking about some of the things around sort of financial security. And like lots of the solutions to some of these problems will be legal solutions and legislative solutions. But to really understand how that would work, I think we'd have to do research with social policy folk and law researchers. But we don't do that often. And so another example is recently started a collaboration with geographers, but who specialize in the built environment. And again, sort of there's lots of research on the built environment itself, and there's lots of research on mental health. But I think really to sort of bring cutting edge ways of conceptualizing the built environment and then trying to understand how that has a bearing on our mental health is something you couldn't do as a psychologist or epidemiologist without collaborating with space and tax researchers and geographers and people who do built environment research. And again, we speak completely different languages. I don't understand half the terms that my colleagues use in the meetings we have. But that's fine. I basically every 2 minutes put my hand up and go, I genuinely don't know what that abbreviation is. And that's how it starts. I think you sort of have to take the plunge.
So this season is all about how we work together.
Whether it's either inside or outside of lockdown.
So make sure you bring the 10th season of the podcast along on your next dog walk or trip out for a latte at a local cafe.
For season 10 of Research for the Real World, here on the IOE podcast. Research for the Real World is brought to you by the IOE Marketing and Communications team,
in association with IOE Research Development.
This podcast is presented by me, Dr. Keri Wong,
and me, Dr. Sam Sims.
The theme music was created by Rob Cochran.
Tatiana Sotero Diaz is the series advisor.
Amy Leibowitz is the series producer.
And Jason Illigan is the executive producer of the IOE podcast.
Thanks so much for downloading and listening to this IOE podcast from the UCL Institute of Education, University College London.